free as the wind blows, as free as the grass grows, born free to follow your heart. Live free as beauty surrounds you. The world still astounds you each time you look at a star. Stay free when no walls divide you. You're free as the roaring tide. There's no need to hide. Born free, and life is worth living, but only worth living because you're born free. Born free as beauty surrounds you. The world still astounds you each time you look at a star. Stay free when no walls divide you. You're free as a roaring tide. There's no need to hide. Born free, and life is worth living, but only worth living because you're born free.
Thank you, Deidrey, for that beautiful song. I loved that. So good morning, everybody. The message I've come to offer this morning was inspired by this passage from Mark Nepo's Book of Awakening. He writes, 12 years ago, my grandmother was dying. I believe she knew she was dying. I could tell because lately when I'd visited her, she would sit on the edge of the bed and peer off into some distance only she could see. She was 94, and I had the feeling that she was imagining the other shore the way she did when she was 10 years old, crossing the Atlantic on a crowded steamship trudging through huge waves toward America. Love that image. The word passage is interesting, isn't it? Could mean the cost of an ocean voyage, or a book section, or a phase of life. And I thought, in a very real way, our lives are a series of passages. Infant, child, teenager, young adult, middle-ager, senior, elder. And then there are those major transitions like graduation, marriage, divorce, first jobs, lost jobs, relocation, retirement. We are all passengers, aren't we? Immigrants continually arriving in new lands. Life itself is like the ocean, way bigger than we are and ever unpredictable. Yes, well, that's for sure. If you ask me, the ocean has been pretty darn turbulent for quite a while now. The pandemic alone has been exhausting, hasn't it? And now we don't really want to think that much about it. We want life to get back to normal. Yet only now, as we relax a bit and enter into what is being called the post-pandemic phase, can we even begin to feel its full impact? The other day, I was telling my oldest son, Patrick, about a new program I've started. I explained that the purpose of the program is to equip leaders to offer spiritual support to people who are not drawn to membership in a church. I asked him if he thought people of his age, if not interested in religion per se, were aware of their need for some sort of spiritual support. What he replied both stunned and touched me. He simply said quietly, 1 million people dead, and no one is talking about it. We both just sat for a minute, I guess to let that sink in. Then he continued, and when you think that the million who died had 4 or 5 million friends and family members, grief is everywhere. I don't know anyone, he said, who hasn't suffered a loss, not to mention the pain and confusion of that stupid, endless conflict over masks and vaccines. Then came the attack on the Capitol. That scared the hell out of us and tore us even farther apart. Now there's the invasion of Ukraine and the horrific images of death and destruction there. It's really overwhelming, Mom. And no one of my friends or co-workers seem able or willing to even talk about it anymore. Wow, that was something. I asked Pat the question because I've noticed that there is a dense energy, a sort of heaviness in people around me. I can feel it in the stores and offices, in the classes I teach, in the way people seem to avoid eye contact when we're out on our walk. There's more anger on the roads too, and more illness, both physical and especially mental. What Pat shared in a sad way seemed to validate these impressions. So I asked, what kind of support do you think folks in your generation need? And actually in the generation after you too, in your kids' generation. He paused and then he said, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I even know what I need right now. Kim and I are going to work as usual. Life seems pretty normal, but somehow it just is not. My program, called Shamanic Warriors, is based on the teachings of one of my beloved gurus, American Buddhist nun Pema Chodron. Pema has recently passed away, but she has left a legacy of beautiful books and talks, which frequently touch on issues of loss and uncertainty. Uncertainty. If there is one word that characterizes the last decade, everything is unsettled. Nothing is the same as it was. Yes, the darkness seems deep, deeper maybe than we have even been able to process. And then came this challenge from Mark Nepo. Imagine the life of your spirit on earth as an immigration, as one constant arrival in a new land. Somehow, we must find a way to accept that no matter the shore before us, the swell and toss of the sea never ends. When brought to the crest of the swell, we can see as far as eternity, and the soul has its perspective. But when in the belly of the wave, we are, each of us, for the moment at least, feeling lost. The work of the inner immigrant is to keep eternity in our hearts and mind's eye when dropped into the belly of our lives. I hope this image helps you. It really has helped me. What if I had the courage to live into each chaotic change as it comes with the curiosity and hopefulness of a newcomer to this country, eager to engage all that's new, even the doubt, fear, pain, anger, and sometimes confusion? You all know that Sep is an immigrant, right? My husband, my dear one. I asked him what it was like to land on American soil for the first time. And looking back, all he could really remember was the excitement and the curiosity. Even though he did not have a job or a place to live, even though he didn't know the laws or even the rules of the road, even though some people seemed suspicious and a bit hostile, even though he barely spoke a word of English. So much of the suffering we experience seems to arise from the desire for things to return to normal, which is just another way of saying the way they were in the past. The only way Sep could have done that was to get back on that plane and head back to Austria, which is something he never even considered doing. Once we accept the reality that yes, everything is different now, and it's not ever going to be back to what it was, perhaps we can allow ourselves to embrace uncertainty with gentleness and heart. Even sometimes allow ourselves to gaze into the unknown, like Mark's grandmother, into the realm of hope and infinite possibility. Maybe we'll find within us a new degree of compassion for others who are acting pretty darn strange, since they too may be feeling lost and scared. Maybe we'll even find the courage to tell the truth about our own losses and fears. Maybe even the patience and generosity to listen as others tell us about theirs. Anita Borgiani is a wonderful teacher for this journey. A 4-year battle with cancer and a near-death experience, which culminated in a miraculous healing, equipped her with the emotional and spiritual strength and insight to guide others through great change. She said something the other day that I have not been able to get out of my mind. She said, authenticity is more important than positivity. Now, being a good Unity student, I had to grapple with that a bit. But then think for a minute. Authenticity is more important than positivity. I believe this is so. I can feel it in my soul. If there is a common theme I hear from loved ones, students, and counseling clients, it's that they find it hard to trust anyone anymore. There has been so much spin, so much misinformation, so much hypocrisy, so much meanness and violence, so many outright lies, we don't know who to believe. They say that the churches are half empty because some people cannot forgive a God who allows people to get away with the evil they do. Justice is hard to find in a world where so many are operating solely from their wounds and self-interest. So how do we begin to rebuild our trust in one another? Well, I think it would be a good idea if we could begin to tell the truth. Not some ideological truth, not something we've read or heard, but the truth of our own experience. our own stories, and not just the data, but how we felt and how we were changed by the things that have happened. And tell those stories of love, gratitude, and beauty right alongside those stories of worry, confusion, and frustration. With practice, maybe we can learn to be less afraid of the darkness in the world and inside us. And as we learn this, maybe we'll be more willing and able to listen to others without obligation to fix or advise. I'm speaking to myself right now. Without taking on their pain. I'm speaking to myself again. Without arguing. That's about me too. And certainly without throwing positive cliches at them. Maybe it's too late to care what others think about us. Maybe it's time for the truth. And maybe the truth will actually set us all free. Once more from Mark Nepo, this time in his writings for today, May 1st. There is very little difference between burying and planting. For often, we need to put dead things to rest so that new life can grow. And realize that the thing put to rest, whether it be a loved one, a dream, a career, or even a false way of seeing, becomes the fertilizer for the life about to form. As the well-used thing joins with the earth, the old love fertilizes the new. The broken dream fertilizes the dream yet conceived. The painful way of seeing things fertilizes a freer way to live. You and I inhabit many expressions of ourselves over a lifetime. One self carries us to the edge of its usefulness and then must be allowed to die. And at that edge, we're forced to put that once beloved and useful personality to rest in the spirit from which it came, so that a more enlightened self can emerge. This process is pretty much universal, but that doesn't mean it's pain-free either. In fact, I don't see how it can happen without grief. Personally, I admit this new passage called retirement and eldership has been much harder to navigate than I expected. There have been days when I felt pretty lost. Like a lot of people, seems I had my identity all wrapped around my purpose and role. For others, it may be appearance or beliefs or the stuff they own or their families and close relationships. So it's not surprising that when any of these things change or go away, we feel disoriented and sad. The analogy of the immigrant really helps here because it brings an image of one ready to stop comparing the present with the past and step wholeheartedly into the new possibilities ahead. In time, we're going to see how the seeds of the future are buried in that past. In fact, how every single thing we've experienced has led us to exactly where we are now. And where we are now is at the doorway of an even greater experience of the present and the future than ever before. The challenge we face is no different than it's ever been. The challenge has always been to grow. to grow into a person who can open to a reality more expansive and fulfilling than any that has gone before. I don't care how old we are. That is still the way forward. Paradoxically, hope and creativity arise when I'm able to accept, even expect the darkness in myself and the material world. But I'm also learning practices that ground and steady me when I get overwhelmed with sadness or fear. Last week, my niece Claire called in tears. She was facing the defense of her master's thesis with graduation right around the corner, and she was scared to death. I asked her what exactly she was scared of. What if I fail and disappoint my parents who have invested so much in me? She replied. All I could do at the time was offer words of love and comfort. But after we hung up, I thought that Claire and I were a lot alike. She at 21 and me at 77. We both have thought we were scared of failing, in my case, being useless. But what we are really afraid of is living into the new reality ahead. Because regardless of the difference in our ages, we're both immigrants headed for foreign shores. Our fear is laced with excitement. I really love what Gene shared during our conversation after church last Sunday, Gene. He said that I told it to him, but I don't remember that. He said that life is like a cork in a glass of water. That the minute you stop holding it down, joy pops right up to the surface. And I thought, wow, that's really true, isn't it? While we can't force ourselves or anyone else to feel good or feel joyful, that joy is always there inside of us, ready to pop up as soon as we're ready to allow it to. The details of our life passages may be different, but at some level, they're the same too, because they're all about crossing from one shore to another. So here are the things I'm learning more deeply these days from my teachers. They're helping me, so I'm hoping they'll help you. There's nothing complicated or new on this list. You will recognize every single item on it, but it's been a great reminder for me. And here it is. The first one, expect darkness, but stay curious. The second, practice peace. The third, know yourself and always be yourself. Fourth, trust your own goodness. 5, feel what you feel and tell the truth about it. 6, share your stories. 7, listen closely. 8, love deeply. And 9, give what you can. Great map, I think, for living. So finally, I'd like to share with you this morning this beautiful gift from one of my favorite poets, David White. It's called The Opening of Eyes. And I thought it just came to mind right now because it just seemed to fit so perfectly. And here's how it goes. That day I saw beneath dark clouds the passing light over the water, and I heard the voice of the world speak out. I knew then, as I had before, that life is no passing memory of what has been, nor the remaining pages in a great book waiting to be read. It is the opening of eyes too long closed. It is the vision of far-off things. It is the heart, after years of secret conversing, finally speaking out loud in the clear air. It is Moses in the desert, fallen to his knees before the lit bush. It is the man who threw away his shoes, getting ready to enter heaven, only to find himself astonished, opened at last, and fallen in love with solid ground. I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. God bless.
What a beautiful message. Very powerful message. I'm going to sing this song for you because I think it speaks to what you were so eloquently expressing today. I can shout out in anger or think before I speak. I can choose to be strong or surrender to your feet. I can rage like a fire or soothe like a breeze. All of this is all of you and me. Because in and through it all is God. In and through it all is love. I am here to be your mirror, to reflect the divine in you. In and through it all is God. Life can play a soft, sweet melody or screech in tragedy. It can wrap you in its arms or bring you humbly to your knees. It can bring so much suffering or joy and harmony. All of this is all of you and me. Because in and through it all is God. In and through it all is love. I am here to be a mirror, to reflect the divine in you. In and through it all is God. It's what it takes to live this human experience. It's what it takes to awaken to our souls. It's what it takes to recognize our wholeness. Because God made us to be whole. In and through it all is God. In and through it all is love. I am here to be your mirror, to reflect the divine in you. In and through it all is God. is God, is good, is life, is love.